Hello, everyone, and welcome back to your favorite time of the week. That's right, it is time for DBR on CBR. It is Dragonball Rewatch, and as always, we hope you are watching along with us on Hulu or Crunchyroll. And if you are reading along with us, make sure you are reading the official translate put out by Viz Media. Once again, we are your hosts. My name is Alex.
I'm Sam.
And I'm John, and we are at episode 20, the big 2-0 for Elimination Round, aired in Japan July 9th, 1986. The US got it on the September the 14th, 2001, and we're adapting two chapters here. Hard work pays, and strongest under the heavens. We're at the World Martial Arts Tournament, and we're starting the process to whittle down the fighters.
This episode, we're really in it now. I will say this certainly isn't the first episode in the series to have it. There are some like uncomfortable stereotypes in terms of designs and voices that maybe are here, but we're in the tournament mode now.
And thankfully, most of those stereotypes are going to slowly vanish over the next episode or so. They don't last long. So that's good.
I do want to ask, Krillin's tall bully. That's Justin Cook, right? Is Justin Cook voicing that character? Because I'm like 99% sure that's Justin Cook.
No.
It certainly sounds like him, right? It's certainly who also voices Super Boo, Raditz in Z.
Dende.
Dende, yeah, that's there's a I do love that they faithfully recreate how he gets annihilated by Krillin in the manga.
It's amazing. You know, even moving past the uncomfortable stereotypes that happen in this episode, like there are some fun little designs, and I just kind of wanted to point out a detail I remembered is that they mentioned that there are 137 countries and species represented, and that was more confusing to me.
What is Monster Beast Jiren? Like, what kind of species? It's a monster beast. I guess the species is right there in the name.
I mean, technically, he comes from Monster Island. By this point, he'd have been from Monster Island, which is a nation in the later films.
Is it Monster Beast, Giran, or is it Giran Monster Beast? Like that's the.
I think if Giran comes and says he's Monster Beast Giran, you don't question him. You go, yes, sir. What else would you like? You don't question Giran. He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, he'll get you with his like weird goo spit.
He'll call one of the others, and then you've got real problems. Can I point out at the start we have like the old man giving the intro, who is so dad at a wedding coded. Like when the dad has to do the speech and he hasn't really planned for it, he's two beers deep. So he's just sort of riffing. And he's like, oh, if anyone hears of the counting nature.
He was so over it already. It was so funny.
My favorite line of that is he says, if you kill someone, you'll be disqualified. Okay, just disqualified. You can't fight anymore. We'll let you kill whoever you want. Like the Hunter Association, they're taking notes. Like, oh, sure, you've murdered 6 people, but we did tell you off so you can come back next year.
We did wag our finger at you aggressively.
Yeah. I mean, that rule, though, to their credit, saves a lot of people as we get more villainous participants in these tournaments.
They're really not equipped for it. I do also find the rules of this tournament a bit funny at this point because we're saying you have a minute. That's not long for like. So that makes some of the characters like, oh, have a free hit. Well, you've just lost. Because if that free hit takes 20 seconds, there's no way you're going to be able to. They'll win on points just because you'll run out of time before you can do anything.
I suppose. I mean, the question is like, obviously this only applies to the preliminaries. If you run out of time and nobody has points, do neither fighter advance? I mean,
I presume the judges would verify the person who was stupid enough to stand there and say, take a shot, would probably lose. Or being the person who stood there and said, take a hit.
Yeah.
I think the funniest thing for me was realizing that this episode was the beginning of one of Goku's worst habits. After he pushes that big dude over, he goes to Krillin and is like, we shouldn't start with full power. It's probably not a good idea. And that one moment, to me, changed the course of the entirety of the show.
I love he says that. Then he goes like, the bullies come up, and he's like, Krillin, we should probably just kill these guys.
Krillin kick their ass.
Yeah. Yeah. He doesn't know how strong Krillin is. What if Krillin like took his head off or like just crushed his entire internal organs with that mighty kick that sends him through the wall?
To be fair, they had it coming.
Oh, yes.
Like, you can argue that Goku was a bit nervous because Goku's fighters were all randoms he hasn't met. Krillin's guys have already proved that they deserve a good kicking.
Krillin's bullies, like that whole scene actually made me genuinely uncomfortable, especially when they kept like touching his head.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Like not even just that. Like at one point, the tall one just had his hand on Krillin's head, and that whole scene just felt like it felt way ickier than I remember it feeling, and I don't know why.
It sets them up really well to give Krillin the excuse. It's amazing. They only have like what that scene is 3 minutes, if that. And immediately it pulled me. It's like, I want to see Krillin beat the living snot out of these guys. Even the other one, when you see Yamcha, that's the one we go, yes, he got the crap kicked out of him. Good. It's such a good setup of just making this villain that the viewers want to see beaten.
It's and the detail of him getting knocked through the wall isn't in the manga. Like it creates a nice little thing for Bulma and Puar and Oolong to do and kind of like peek in through the massive crater cavity that it leaves in his wake. But yeah, in the manga, he just straight up annihilates him with that kick, and it's just like, oh, well, job well done. But yeah, and it's also fascinating is this is in the manga, this is the first time we see these characters. We see Yamcha and stuff again. We don't, whereas in the anime, we've seen them for like 2 episodes now.
Speaking of seeing old characters again, we got to talk about the gratuitous panty shots in this episode. We have to just get it out of the way.
Oh yeah, the whole Bulma plot point is just an extended panty gag. I do like that Oolong is dressed like he's in the Wolf of Wall Street for some reason, and 2 goes, "I'm glad I'm not a pervert." It's like Oolong, Meg, you are.
Oolong, come on.
He's the OG. He's the OG pervert.
Like, okay, I'm gonna be this guy. Some panty shot jokes can be clever. Some of them can be clever. They're few and far between. But I'm gonna be the double X chromosome person here saying that I don't think that this was one of them. It just felt too long. Like, is that like?
No, there wasn't. Also, it's also the joke we've already seen is the thing. Yeah. Except this time, rather than just being Oolong or Roshi, it's a random crowd of people. I think the problem with that joke is the second they set up, oh, Oolong, you have to hold me on your shoulders, you already know what the punchline is about 10 minutes before it happens, which kills any of the... Those kind of jokes work best when they're subversive, you don't see them coming. But here, you already know that's what's going to happen. I do find it funny how odd Oolong and Bulma's relationship is in this episode. Because, like, he calls her the wicked mistress and her pig slave, but then she's trying to buy him candy and ice cream as her bribe. It's like, why is Oolong her child now?
How old is Oolong? Is Oolong an adult?
It's so like, why is Oolong even still kind of with Bulma at this point? Like, he's just like living with her.
He's got his own palace. We don't know. I mean, the inference that I have is he was looking for the first excuse to having to take care of the young women he had kidnapped and was forced to take care of. And he was like, oh, this is my out. And now he finds himself on the receiving end of Bulma and her like poison that apparently still has an effect on him however many months, maybe a year later.
Which is a plot hole because it said it was only working for a month originally.
Yeah.
God damn you, Toriyama, not remembering your weird chemical weapon lore.
I will say Oolong putting the achievement of turning into a ladder on the same level as Goku getting into the main tournament. Love that. That's a very good joke.
That is good.
I became a ladder.
Talking of random things. Weird costume. Can I talk about how at the end Roshi appears like he's the old priest in The Exorcist?
Sure. Yeah. Father Karen, of course. Yeah.
Just, I'm not sure it was deliberate. I was looking like, well, that's certainly a thing.
Yeah.
Man, they're trying. This episode is trying to set up the mystery of what Roshi was up to, which was just, being Jackie Chun. Spoiler alert for a 40-year-old anime. But like, it's so weird to have, like, because I think you could have made the excuse of him not showing up again, and still the audience be able to look at Jackie Chan and be like, that's Roshi in a wig. Like,
And we'll get to it next episode, but they don't try and hide it. Next episode, they basically give it away straight off the bat.
yeah.
So,
But I
it's
feel
still,
like they're trying to be sneaky in this episode.
yeah, it's you'd think it would be a thing, but it's more like, oh, he's just not here.
I do like some of the humor that we get, in going back to like Oolong, like, and this is more of a dubism than a original writingism, like the little lines that they give Oolong as he's in between bad panty jokes and turning into a ladder. I think the banter in this episode overall in the Funimation dub is really good. You really get the camaraderie between Goku and Krillin. It's cool seeing Yamcha. Always cool seeing Yamcha put his money where his mouth is, because you have to enjoy it while you can.
And Yamcha kind of becoming the big brother figure, which I quite like.
I was gonna say, Big Brother Yamcha's so cute.
First time, and it's interesting seeing his dynamic with Krellin, because we know that they become longtime friends as adults, like in Z. So to see him, still forming the early stages of that relationship with Krellin, and it's always weird seeing him not fight in a Kame House gi for me. So to still see him in the Desert Bandit gear, albeit with the shorter hair now. I also like a lot of the designs for the preliminary opponents are straight from the manga, not just the bully monks, but the big, like, mustachioed man that Goku takes out with a poke, the Bruce Lee analog that gives up. A lot of those characters actually show up in the manga, so it's really cool to see them kind of reappear here and in a more expanded role.
So here's a fun fact about those guys. They do get named, but in the toy line. There are two sets of action figures: Dragon Ball Fighting Hero Tenkai Budokai no Maki and Dragon Ball Neketsu Tenkai Budokai, that have these guys as figures. I tried to get them. Oh my god, they're expensive. So I'm not sure if Toriyama had sort of input on these names, but some of them are great. The big mustache guy is called Bubba Sky. So Babasa, which sounds kind of like Bubba Sky. It sounds like the guy from Coraline, Babinski.
Mm.
He's also weirdly British in this dub, which we don't say rump. Please, dubbers, stop making out we don't say bum. Let the Brit say bum. The ninja guy is called he's called Master PP in the toys. Master PE space PE. But in the video game, in Dragon Ball Z Super Gokenden, he's called Lang Lang Roshi.
Oh.
Yeah, they change his name. The bear is just called Yarara Bear, which I quite like. It's a very nice, again, very Russian circus sounding name for this bear. One of the interesting ones is that the kickboxer guy we see, who is a terrible racial stereotype, is called Jab in the toy line. But even in the toy line, I think they realized it was a bit near the knuckle. So all the box art he's redrawn as white.
Huh.
Good.
Yeah, but it's interesting because you sit there going, oh, they must have realized that pretty quickly, because these toys came out like not long after this episode released.
Yeah.
So I want to sort of come in on a Bruce Lee guy. His name is Bruce Poo. Poo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what?
But he's part of what is a very personal joke for Toriyama, which I quite like, because he's not a Bruce Lee parody. He's a parody of Bruce Lee parodies. So if when you brought the Daizenshu guidebooks, you would get a little booklet called The Shenron Times. And there's an interview with Toriyama in it. And he says how much he hated Bruceploitation films. For those who don't know, after Bruce Lee died, quite tragically, a lot of unscrupulous filmmakers went, well, now he's dead, we can make our own Bruce Lee films. So they'd get guys who looked like him to star in really cheap films. Sometimes they would give the character like a name that's spelled slightly similar, so like Bruce Poo, Bruce Lou. Other times they'd just straight up say, oh, this was footage filmed before he died, and then release them as official Bruce Lee films. And Toriyama was a big Bruce Lee fan and hated these films. So that's why Krillin survives the Dragon Stomp, because this guy isn't Bruce Lee. He's a terrible knockoff who doesn't know how to do it properly.
And then gives up.
Yeah, so that's why he's a coward. So it's basically Toriyama's real personal thing about hating people who make Bruce Lee knockoffs, which
I
I think
love
is
how
really
deep cut
sweet.
that is.
Yeah.
That's really deep cut. I really enjoy that.
Yeah, yeah. Well done. Well done, Akira. You know, when I was in
Oh, we're on a first name
Shibuya,
basis now.
yeah, well, when I was in Shibuya, the Tower Records has an entire like tribute stand to Akira Toriyama. You saw that too?
Yeah, I went to go see that too. A fun fact for the audience: Sam and I were in Japan in wildly different times. But yeah, no, that it was really beautiful. I actually came across a lot of really cool Dragon Ball stuff while I was in Japan. I found the 30th Dragon Ball anniversary collection, and I managed to get it very, very cheap at one of those very tall bookstores. And it was incredible how many places had stuff dedicated to Toriyama.
Did you find the shop in Shibuya that sold the Dragon Ball underpants, including a Yamcha line?
You do not understand how much I wanted to buy it, but you also do not understand the fact that my fiance would have looked at me like I had grown a second head. So
But so you
I
did.
wanted I wanted it.
Yeah. Yeah. Enjoy that.
Yeah.
Enjoy these Yamcha W's while you can, gang. Enjoy these Yamcha W's while you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yamcha deserves more W's, guys. Come on. The bot, call us.
Excited for the Yamcha spin-off. Can I point out how much I really enjoy the fights in this episode?
Mhm.
And how this can sound really stupid when I say it in words, but they feel like animated manga panels. Unlike sort of like say later in Z, where we'll adapt the fights, but we'll add loads of bits in between, will flow. This just feels like it's the splash panels one after the other. So you don't see how sort of Krillin gets from one side to the other. He just jumps up and then the kick lands. It keeps the pace up so nicely, especially because these fights are inherently throwaway. They're not big plot moments. So having them be this really short, sharp, quick blasts where you only see the big fun moves just makes them so breezy to get through. When I think like sort of later tournament arcs, even other anime will have this problem where they'll have the fights in their entirety and it drags. Here, just we got through 4 in an episode. They were all really fun in their own special way.
Yeah, I think Yoshihiro Togashi actually took a little inspiration because the ending tournament in Yu Yu Hakusho in the manga, he basically goes, "Yeah, you don't want to watch these jobber fights, so who's going to the next round. Let's just go to that." Like that's a really good point about tournament arcs, especially later ones, because I agree. I was amazed at how much we got through so quickly. I forgot how quick it was. And it feels better because you're not sitting there through these one-off knockoff characters for too long. You're there to get the gist and to keep on going, and the momentum is good.
And I also I quite like is with these
And then you
extra
have the
what we do with the extra characters, we do set them up in a way that makes them feel interesting enough that they could go through. Because even as a sort of an audience time, you would know that Goku, Krillin, and Yamcha are going to sort of qualify. But you do leave those 3 spots where you think, well, any of these weird background guys could be it. So there is a good bit of tension here. Also, yeah, we talk about Yamcha's fight where he fights an actual wolf and pressure point kills. I'm gonna say I'm a mark for that spot. Just when in Sentai when they do it, when sort of they do the slash and the hero standing and then falls, beautiful. This is the only use of that move as well. The blinding Wolfang fist. We will never see it again until the video games.
Yep. Is it me or is the wolf he fight look like one of the antagonists from Star Fox?
It's very Star Fox.
Oh yeah, Wolf O'Donnell.
Yeah.
He's got a name.
I mean, the Star Fox characters don't get much work because Nintendo refused to make sequels, so that's what he's been doing, fighting Yamcha.
Yeah. May that franchise rest in peace. You know, I still have my copy of Star Fox Assault, and Dinosaur Planet. Yeah, I mean the it's straight up a samurai fight, right? The two. And I do think, you know, to Alex's point, they are still hewing close to the manga. It really isn't until the Red Ribbon Army becomes involved that they're like all the worst filler tendencies start to come up when that. So it's another thing to enjoy while you can, guys.
I'm trying to think, 20 episodes in, have we even had a pure filler arc? I don't think we have.
Not a pure one. I mean, there's some that just kind of
don't go very far.
Yeah,
We've had
obviously.
filler scenes. We've
Yeah,
had like
like
some extra
Yeah.
little scenes thrown in, but we haven't had like a
The
filler. Like I don't think we've had a true filler episode, really.
No, I think the only sort of the closest we're going to get is probably this episode is probably the most filler we've had with just the Bulma and Oolong stuff.
well, I
Which
would say the most fillery episode we've covered so far is the pinball punishment is pinball
oh
episode,
Yeah.
where it's basically
yeah,
an entire episode of like Scooby-Doo chases in the Pilaf Palace.
oh well, that is much shorter, isn't it? Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's still amazing that we're 20 in and we haven't sort of had any real massive dumps of it yet.
If this
Yeah.
were Naruto, we'd have so much.
If this was
Sorry,
not
Naruto
this
fans.
was
I love
Naruto, we'd
Naruto.
be so far behind. Again,
Yeah.
it is weird to think that we are 20 episodes in and we have come what feels like a country mile from where we started with little Goku getting run over and living in the forest. It does not feel like we're in the same show anymore.
No, it's remarkable how quickly it goes from being a Journey to the West adaptation to straight up becoming a martial arts tournament manga anime story, and how organically that evolution happens, where it's like, oh, this was always building to this point. Because you look at some of those episodes, like in the first like 13 or so, and it's like, no, it didn't always feel like it was building to this point. I'm like, oh my God, this isn't just a fairy tale anymore. Now we're like in a straight up like proto Baki, proto what's another good tournament manga? Hamaji no Ippo kind of scenario. And
It,
it's great.
It's amazing when you think
it's
about it that this whole thing hinges, this whole sort of transition hinges on the fact they met Roshi in episode 3 or 4.
Four, yeah, I want to say four.
yeah.
Like, he is the bridge. Like, for all we mock Roshi and he deserves it, he is the bridge that made this possible. Like, if he was not in that early episode, this would feel a lot more weird. But no, he was introduced early and it sort of immediately had to. And with him came the idea of, oh, there are martial arts tutors out in the world who teach you special skills. And obviously that means there
It,
must be people testing them, which logically means there must be tournaments. And yeah,
it is interesting because we have the beauty of hindsight, the beauty of retrospect, where even in these 20 episodes we can see how drastically Dragon Ball changes. And we're also coming at it 40 years down the road from when Dragon Ball started. So we're coming at it from the end of like, oh yeah, Piccolo has an orange form now and they can blow up galaxies. And the escalation of Dragon Ball, it's so weird to go back and realize that it's always been very quick in terms of its escalation. It's just you don't notice it because it's been 4 decades.
yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. I was talking with a friend very recently, and we were talking about doing this podcast, and they've never seen any Dragon Ball. They were, I think, a little too old when it first hit Cartoon Network, and we ended up watching a couple of episodes together. And what we ended up watching was the first episode of Dragon Ball, and then like I think one of the later Z Cell episodes. Just
Hmm.
because
Oh,
I don't know how they picked those 2 episodes to watch. They said, I want to watch these two. I was like, okay, whatever. I think because they thought Cell was like it looked like the Xenomorph, and they're a big Aliens fan. And they looked at me like, how do we get from here to here? I was like, well, first it's about 10 years. Like this show has been going continuously for 10 years, and I don't fully know. We just kind of
ended
do.
up
Like space happens midway through, and with that comes aliens who can suck your blood, and the demons are also aliens, and
Yeah, sales are going down. So Toriyama's like, I'm gonna rebrand this and let's make it hard science fiction, but still with fights. It's like,
and
oh,
then I thought I'm like, don't worry. When this ends, we'll go to multiverse travel with multiversal tournaments and body snatching. So when does that happen? It just kind of does, slowly but
Yeah.
it kind of
surely.
does. And that's see, the weird thing is, right, is that in many ways, Dragon Ball has a little bit of the same energy that JoJo's Bizarre Adventure does, except not as cranked up to 11. It's just that energy of like, why is this happening? Well, it's just gonna happen, and you're just gonna go along with it. It's like, yeah, that vampire is gonna turn his hand into a squirrel. Yeah, this giant cicada thing is gonna suck the fluids out of this dude. Don't just go with it. Just roll with it.
yeah, yeah.
It is so fascinating. 'Cause I know we talk about pacing a lot, but it's definitely been on my mind recently because I started rewatching Sailor Moon. I always forget Venus doesn't appear until episode 25. You don't get like the core Sailor team until sort of as we know them until episode 30.
It's
Really. And
wait, How many Sailor Scouts are introduced? Are all of them introduced by?
No, you have to wait for a couple more seasons for the outers appear.
Yeah, okay, so
You
you got your inner scouts, you've got your outer scouts, then you've got your cosmic scouts.
Then
You
you've got
gotta
the future timeline ones.
got the future timeline ones, you got the starlights, there's a lot of Sailor Moon out there, you guys.
That core team still, like the guys you know, the ones you see on all the merch, which ruins it watching it now. It's like, who could the fifth one be? We know she's on the picture. You don't get 20 episodes, and then I come back to this and like, oh, we're already at the fighting tournament. We've had one cast, we replaced it for another cast, and we've now merged both casts together. Here's a load of new characters, and this is going to lead into another load of new characters coming in. It's like, oh, yeah, we are moving at rocket speed.
How influential do you think this is beyond this arc and the way it's rendered beyond standard tournament anime? By which I mean like, I'm saying this on the heels of Blue Lock coming out, and I'm looking at the competitions in Blue Lock, I'm in training in Blue Lock. I'm like, there's some Dragon Ball in this DNA. I'm picking up what you're putting down. Like I feel like this transcends your standard like shonen anime stuff.
I think it has to. Like you look at Dragon Ball. Oh, go ahead, Az.
No. I was just gonna like agree with it. Is like you can't look anything, not even just shonen, but even looking at anything that had tournaments after this point. It all kind of goes back to Dragon Ball in a lot of ways. Like there was a joke with a group of friends of mine for a while when we were watching My Hero Academia for the first time, and they were doing the sports day, and we were like, oh, it's the Chunin exams, and then we're like, no, wait, it's the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai. Like it all kind of goes back to these tournaments, and I think the beauty of tournaments in anime is that they're a very convenient way to tell certain stories. Like the Dark Tournament in Yu Yu Hakusho is one of the best arcs in the entire anime, and it's probably one of the best tournament arcs in anime in general. But it is used very well to build conflict. A tournament is immediate conflict already set up, and then you can just go from there. And sports anime lends itself to that. Like I think Haikyuu's first tournament was like that's always on like the top 10 most sad anime moments lists you see on watchmojo.com. But yeah, like I feel like tournaments now are so much a part of anime that when you don't see them, it's weird.
I mean, you can sort of make testament to that by the fact that we have the term tournament arc, and I can sit there, I can just pretty much any anime fan and go, this is the tournament arc. They'll know what I mean, and they'll be able to part 10 more. It has become so embedded because it is. It's instant conflict. It's a very easy structure, a good way to introduce new characters because it's building on what the audience already know. Any country that has sports, which is all of them, has tournaments. Any European will know the World Cup, will know the Euro Cup. You have to explain it. Just go, this is a tournament, this is the sport. But I think you can't deny that Dragon Ball changed the industry. Like going back to the Shenlong Times thing, and that first one, there's an interview with a couple of the editors as well. And you see how they explain, like, oh yeah, this was new to us at the time, but since then, this is just the model we've used. This defined not only how writers work, it defined how the industry worked. And that's why you can't escape it, because Dragon Ball is the DNA of that era. It's the DNA of Shonen Jump's new model of sort of the having 4 or 5 shows and running them forever until the wheels fall off. It's their anime thing of animating very as close to the manga as you can get, not waiting 10 years. It was the industry. Dragon Ball became the industry model, so you can't escape it unless you're making something else. But then the industry model affected how we do TV, how we do movies. Dragon Ball is in the DNA of everything. It's in you, it's in me, and it's in every single writer.
Oh yeah.
Lend us your energy. Like,
oh, I got more passionate than I thought it was going to. But
you were feeling it. Like, I was about to go into like, hey, what are your final thoughts? But I don't know how to follow that.
I have one final thought before we quickly close off. I love the fact Paul's response is, I grab when I'm scared. After being on Bulma's face like a face hugger. That's going into my lexicon. That's my excuse now for any action I make in my household. So thank you, Poir, for that built-in excuse.
They are so
I
cute.
grab when I'm scared.
Yeah. But
what about you, Sam? Final thoughts?
We're off to the races, guys. We're gonna get some fights, the grossest one, but we're gonna get some fights. Alex, you got one?
Oh God, it made me revisit my past trauma. Yeah, like as we were talking about tournament arcs, for some reason thinking about like the panty shots in tournament arcs made me think of Shokugeki no Soma. For anybody who likes Food Wars out there,
Glowing
um,
review.
glowing reviews for Food Wars, panty shots and tournament arcs. But yeah, it's I love like I'm excited. I really love the tournament. I like the tournament arcs a lot in Dragon Ball, so I'm happy to rewatch this one because I remember a little of what's coming, and I'm excited. And we hope that the entire audience is excited because we've got some fun stuff coming up. So once again, thank you all for joining us this week on DBR for CBR, Dragon Ball Rewatch. And we hope once again you are watching along with us on Hulu and Crunchyroll and making sure you are reading along in Viz Media. Let's practice our literacy skills, my friends. Once again, my name is Alex.
I'm Sam.
And I'm John.
And we'll see you next time on Dragon Ball.